Kyle Kuzma is absolutely balling this season. After a mostly up and down career with the Los Angeles Lakers, moving to the Washington Wizards originally when he was traded to them, a lot of people didn't necessarily have that many expectations for Kyle and didn't necessarily see him as the same player as a lot of people saw him on the Lakers in the first season with them. But quickly before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionative NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, please consider hitting that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
After being drafted with the number 27 overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft by the LA Lakers, Kyle Kuzma has had an up and down season. In his rookie season with the Lakers, he had a fantastic year, showing a ton of promise and a ton of skill, but it really seems like ever since then, at least with the Lakers, he got a little bit worse each and every year. Until eventually he got to the point last year where the Lakers actually decided to trade him to the Washington Wizards. But so far early on in the Wizards, Kuzma has looked fantastic. On the year, he's averaging around 15 points per game on 44% shooting from the field, 8.3 rebounds, and also adding 3 assists to his game. Now, the numbers that I just mentioned don't seem absolutely fantastic, but when you actually watch Kuzma on the court, you can tell he's a much better player now for the Wizards than he was for the Lakers, at least at the tail end of his career with the Lakers. And when you actually look at the numbers that he's been putting up recently, in his past few games, he put up 22 points, 25 points, 29, 36, and 24 on all pretty efficient shooting, which is pretty impressive for Kuzma going forward, and certainly a very promising for him. But why is Kuzma playing so much better for the Wizards than he was on the Lakers? Now, I just quickly want to point out before I answer the question is it still is very early on into the season for Kuzma and anything could happen going forward. Now, I think there's a bunch of different reasons for why. Maybe there was a lot of pressure on him, A, playing with LeBron, but B, also playing with the LA Lakers, and now going to a team like the Washington Wizards where going into the season there really wasn't that many expectations on him specifically, but also on the team in general. I think certainly helped him out, and certainly is one of the bigger reasons why he's playing so much better now than he was previously with the Lakers. But probably the biggest reason why Kuzma is playing so much better now for the Wizards is he's more involved in the offense. Now, previously when Kuzma was playing with the Lakers and LeBron specifically, he was involved in the sense that he was getting a decent amount of shots, but the difference is now with the Wizards, he's able to create for himself a lot more than he was for the Lakers in previous years. Originally in his first year with the Lakers, when Kuzma had his best season as a Laker, Kuzma was creating for himself a lot more, but ever since LeBron came in, obviously it makes sense, but ever since LeBron came in, he was handling the ball a lot more, and Kuzma didn't necessarily have as much time or as many opportunities to actually create for himself. And I think the fact that Kuzma was kind of turning into just a spot-up shooter at that point, it took some confidence away from him, and when he wasn't necessarily shooting fantastic from that three-point range, I think he just lost so much confidence. But now with the Wizards, although Bradley Beal obviously is going to have the ball in his hands a lot of the time, with the Wizards he's going to have a lot more opportunities to actually create for himself, and I think that gives him a lot more confidence going forward. And honestly, in my opinion, that's probably the biggest reason why he's playing so much better with the Wizards, at least early on into this season, than he was for the most part with the Lakers and LeBron specifically. I don't necessarily think it's anything against LeBron, because obviously if you have LeBron on your team, you want him to be handling the ball most of the time. I'm just saying for a guy like Kuzma who thrives off creating for himself, I just think a guy like that just needs the ball in his hands a lot more to get more opportunities in order for him to really fulfill the potential that he's able to, and really just have all the confidence that he needs to perform well out there. But I think even besides all those factors, and maybe due to some of those factors that I mentioned, with the Wizards, Kyle Kuzma is actually doing some things that he's never done before. Kyle Kuzma isn't necessarily a fantastic passer even now with the Wizards, but currently this season so far, he's showing a pretty good ability to pass and play make out there. At the very least, a lot better than he did at any point in his Lakers career. There's been a bunch of different times, at least this year with the Wizards early on, that Kyle Kuzma would have the ball in his hands and actually create for others, get easy opportunities for others. Maybe someone's cutting all the way to the basket, maybe finding them for a wide open catch and shoot three-point shot. Maybe once he's cutting all the way to the basket, just gives off a pretty nifty pass to one of his centers for an easy dunk or layup. Overall, Kuzma has certainly shown the ability to pass and play make out there, and it shows a real improvement in terms of his basketball IQ, which is very important to see from a guy like Kyle, because it really just shows that he's improving as a player as well. But let's actually look at Kyle's game overall to see what he does well out there. So of course, Kyle has the ability to shoot that three-point shot in terms of catch and shoot, sidestep, step back, crossover. From that three-point area, although he isn't necessarily shooting a fantastic percentage, he is a good three 3-point shooter, at least in my opinion, and has a bunch of different abilities from that range. But in terms of his mid-range shooting ability, he's pretty good as well. He has a pretty nice pull-up mid-range jump shot within his game. Of course, could do everything he could from that 3-point range in the sense that he could cross over, sidestep, step back, catch and shoot. But also, Kuzma has a pretty nice post turnaround fadeaway within his game, which I think is very important for all players in the NBA, but especially if you want to take your game to the next level. I think that's a very important shot to have. Kuzma also has a decent floater within his game, and once he drives all the way to the basket, he has the ability to posterize players. Although he isn't super athletic and doesn't do it every play, he certainly has the ability. He's decent around the basket in terms of finishing with either hand, either his left or right hand, and overall offensively, Kuzma is just a pretty good player and a very skilled player overall. It's just with the Lakers, he didn't necessarily get all his opportunities, and maybe he lost some confidence along the way, and that's really the biggest reason why I think he was not necessarily that great with the Lakers following his rookie season. Another question you may ask is, do I personally think that this Kyle Kuzma run is going to be a fluke, or do I think Kyle Kuzma is going to play like this for the rest of the season, or maybe even get better? Well, to me personally, I personally think Kuzma is probably going to play this way for at the very least the rest of the season, and maybe even get better. And going forward, if he continues to have the same opportunities as he has with the Wizards, even if it's on another team, just the opportunity to create for himself, I think overall Kuzma is basically going to be the player that we're seeing now for the Wizards. But also looking at the Wizards as a whole this season, they certainly impressed a lot of people, getting off to a very quick start early on. Now more recently, they've certainly fell off a little bit and they're not playing as well as they did at the beginning of the year. But overall, I still do think the Wizards are an impressive team overall, and they have some nice young players on their team and young talent, and I think going forward the Wizards could potentially make the playoffs. I definitely do see them as a play-in team for sure at the very least, but at the same time I definitely could see them making the playoffs as well. But we'll see what happens going forward, both for Kyle Kuzma and the Washington Wizards. Who knows, maybe Kuzma would turn into an all-star type player going forward, and maybe the Wizards could potentially be a top 6, top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference and actually make some noise once they make it to the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Kyle Kuzma is playing very well this season? And if you do, why do you think he's playing so well? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now. Until the next time, peace out guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. Hope you can't go around.